The thing about calling someone stupid is that you never know how they're going to respond. This man thought he was insulting a powerless retail worker. What he didn't realize is that I controlled the one thing he'd need most when buyer's remorse hit. And by the time he found out, it was already too late. If you've ever been talked down to, disrespected, or treated like you were beneath someone else, you're going to enjoy this one. Hit subscribe, tap like, and settle in because this isn't loud revenge, this is surgical. Let's get into it. I've worked retail for 3 years. 3 years of fluorescent lights that never quite turn off. 3 years of fake smiles that start to ache halfway through your shift. 3 years of learning how to swallow your pride, straighten your posture, and say, absolutely, I can help with that, even when the person in front of you clearly sees you as furniture. Retail toughens your skin. You have to grow a shell, otherwise you don't last. But every once in a while someone finds the crack. This guy, he walked in already pissed off. You know the type, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, eyes scanning the store like it personally offended him by existing. Middle-aged, decent clothes. The energy of someone who woke up annoyed and decided you were going to pay for it. Before I could finish my greeting, I could tell this interaction was not going to be pleasant. He wanted a speaker. Specific model, on sale. I checked the shelf. Empty, I checked the system. Sold out, so I did what retail trains you to do. Calm, polite, solution-oriented. Unfortunately, we're sold out in this store, I said, keeping my tone neutral. But I can check nearby locations or order it online for you at the same sale price. Reasonable options, helpful options. He stared at me like I'd just insulted him. Then he scoffed and said, not even quietly, "Are you stupid? Just check the back." Not please, not can you, just that. That word landed heavy. Not explosive anger, that slow, hot pressure behind the eyes. I felt my face go warm. My jaw tightened. My hands curled around the little scanner I was holding. Every retail worker knows this moment. The split second where you decide whether to escalate or comply. I smiled, the kind of customer service smile that doesn't quite reach your eyes. "Of course," I said. "I'll go check." And I walked to the back. The stockroom was quiet, dim, smelled faintly of cardboard and dust. I stood there, didn't look for the speaker, didn't pretend to, I just stood, listened to my own breathing, let the words replay. "Are you stupid?" 3 minutes passed, long enough to feel believable, long enough to show I tried. Then I walked back out. "I'm sorry, sir," I said, voice steady. "We don't have any in the back." His lips pressed into a thin line, annoyed but cornered. He ended up buying a different speaker. More expensive. Double the price, actually. His decision. Not my problem, or at least that's what he thought. Here's something most customers don't understand. Retail isn't about powerlessness. It's about small control. Tiny levers buried inside policies, procedures, and routines, levers you only notice when someone needs them. Our return policy, simple and absolutely ruthless if you make it difficult on yourself. You need the receipt. Yes, you can return without one, but then it becomes a process. Manager approval. Government ID. Store credit only. Questions, delays, suspicion. A headache. And the longer the line behind you gets, the worse it feels. I bagged his purchase carefully. Folded the receipt, then folded it again and again until it was as small as I could physically make it. I placed it inside the bag. Then I taped the bag shut. Not casually, fully sealed. Then, because I had time, I put that bag inside another bag and taped that one shut too. I slid the receipt exactly between the layers, right where the tape pressed against plastic. Invisible, trapped, sticky with adhesive residue. I handed him the bag, smiled. "Have a great day," I said. He didn't look at me, he just left. And in that moment, nothing dramatic happened. No explosion, no shouting, no confrontation. Just a quiet certainty settling in my chest. Because I knew something he didn't. One day soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, he'd realize he didn't want that speaker after all. And when that moment came, returning it was going to be a whole journey. Retail revenge is rarely immediate. There's no dramatic showdown, no instant gratification. Instead, it lives in the after. The quiet confidence that settles in once the automatic doors slide closed behind someone who thought they won. I finished my shift that day like normal. Checked a few more customers out. Restocked shelves, smiled until my cheeks hurt. But every now and then my mind drifted back to that bag, to that receipt, to the inevitability of it. Because here's the truth about expensive purchases made in anger: they don't age well. Buyer's remorse doesn't announce itself, it sneaks in. It shows up when the adrenaline fades and the credit, Card alert hits your phone. When the box sits unopened on the kitchen counter, silently asking, "Did you really need this?" And when that feeling arrives, the first thought is always the same. I'll just return it. I've seen it hundreds of times. People stride in confident and walk out defeated. They act like returns are routine, like nothing can go wrong, until it does. A few days later, I was back at work when it hit me. That familiar tightening in the air. You feel it before you see it, a disturbance in the comm, raised voices at the counter, the uncomfortable shifting of customers in line. The subtle no energy that spreads when someone stops being reasonable. I glanced up. And there he was, same jacket, same face, different expression. He had the speaker box under his arm and a problem. He slapped the bag down on the counter harder than necessary. "I need to return this." My coworker did the usual routine. "Do you have the receipt?" That's when it happened. The pause, the patting of pockets, the opening of the bag, the confusion. Yeah, it's in here." He shook the bag, nothing fell out. His brow furrowed. He reached deeper. That's when annoyance shifted into irritation. "I know it's in here," he muttered, louder now. People in line leaned forward just a little. He started tearing into the bag. Tape resisted. Plastic stretched. The bag crinkled violently as he ripped it apart, and still nothing. "I folded it really small," he said, more to himself than anyone else. He pulled the second bag free, the one sealed like a vault. Now the frustration had eyes on it. My coworker glanced toward me, that look that says, "Oh boy." I stepped closer. Not too close, just enough to observe. This man was sweating, realizing something only after it's too late always looks the same. Eyes darting, breathing shallow, hands shaking just enough to betray panic. He ripped and ripped, tape stuck to itself. Plastic tore unevenly. The sound was awful long, drawn out, tearing that made everyone uncomfortable. The receipt finally emerged. Barely. A tiny, mutilated square stuck half to the tape, half to the bag, edges curled and smeared with adhesive. He peeled at it desperately, ripped a corner, tried to smooth it out. Too late. The barcode looked like it had survived a hurricane. My coworker squinted at it. "I'm sorry, sir. This is pretty damaged." His head snapped up. "What do you mean damaged? That's the receipt?" "Yes, but we need to be able to scan it." He scoffed. "Unbelievable, I just bought this." "I understand. Without a readable receipt, it'll have to be processed as a no-receipt return." And that's when his mood collapsed, because he knew what that meant even if most people don't. Manager call, ID check. Store credit only, a longer wait, public embarrassment. "I don't want store credit," he snapped. "I paid with my card." "I understand," my coworker repeated, calm but firm. "That's the policy." He slammed the box down. "This is ridiculous. Who does this?" No one answered. The line was silent. I stood there, neutral expression, hands folded in front of me, invisible, untouchable. The manager came over, re-explained everything. Apologized the way management does when they won't bend. Checked his ID, processed the return, store credit, printed slip. He snatched it from the counter like it had personally betrayed him. On his way out, his eyes met mine, just for a second, and in that second something flickered. Recognition? Suspicion? Maybe he couldn't place it. Maybe he didn't need to. He left without a word. I didn't feel joy, not laughter, not gloating. What I felt was balance, the universe tipping back into alignment. He disrespected someone he assumed couldn't affect him, and all I did was follow procedure. Carefully, legally, perfectly. There's something most customers never realize. Retail workers don't forget faces easily. You learn to read people fast, who's just having a bad day and who enjoys having power over someone they think can't push back. That guy, he wasn't stressed. He wasn't confused. He was comfortable being cruel, and that's the kind of behavior that sticks with you. After he left that second time, the store settled back into its usual rhythm. The hum of the lights, the beep of scanners, the constant low murmur of conversations that don't matter. But inside me, something had shifted. Not excitement, not triumph, just a deep, calm certainty. Because for once, the interaction ended on my terms. No manager throwing me under the bus. No forced apology. No swallowing words that deserved an answer. Just consequence. A lot of people think revenge has to be explosive to count. Yelling, public humiliation. Someone getting what they deserve in a way that everyone can see. But that kind of revenge burns out fast. It's messy. It costs you something. This cost me nothing. No rule broken, no policy bent, no risk taken. All I did was understand the system. Better than he did. And here's the part that really gets me. If he'd spoken to me like a human being just once, if he'd said, "Hey, could you check the back, please?" If he hadn't reached for that word, stupid, none of this would have happened. The bag would have been loose, the receipt flat, the return painless. That's the irony. People think power comes from dominance, from barking orders, from humiliation. But power in places like retail comes from cooperation, from basic decency, from understanding that the person across the counter is not your enemy. I've thought about him since, not obsessively, not angrily, just occasionally. Like when someone else snaps their fingers at me, or talks over me, or says, "It's not that hard," about a job they couldn't last a week doing. I wonder if that guy ever connected the dots. If he replayed the interaction later and felt that small twist in his gut, the "maybe I shouldn't have said that" feeling, or if he just chalked it up as another way the world wronged him. Either way, the lesson was delivered. There's an unspoken rule in customer service. The nicer you are, the easier everything becomes. Returns, exchanges, exceptions. People will move mountains for you if you treat them like people. But the moment you decide someone is beneath you, the world becomes very procedural, very literal, very exact. Suddenly, the rules matter. Suddenly, the fine print shows up, and no one ever warns you about that. No sign on the door says, "Disrespect may result in inconvenience." But maybe there should be. Working retail teaches you restraint, teaches you how often you could retaliate and choose not to. Every smirk swallowed, every insult ignored, every unfair assumption absorbed. They pile up, until one day someone pushes just enough, and the response isn't emotional. It's precise. That's what made this satisfying. Not cruelty. Control. I don't remember his name. I don't remember his card type. I don't even remember the speaker he bought. But I remember the look on his face when the return stopped being simple. And I remember thinking some lessons don't need words. They just need time, tape, and a receipt folded small enough to disappear. Here's the thing about revenge like this. It doesn't ruin lives. It doesn't cross lines. It simply adds friction. It makes someone sit in the consequences of their own behavior just a little longer than they expected. If you've ever worked a job where you had to smile through disrespect in retail, food service, customer support, and felt that quiet, burning urge to reclaim your dignity, you're not alone. And in retail, where people are treated as invisible, disposable, and stupid on a daily basis, that matters. Because respect isn't optional. And sometimes the lesson sticks better when it's inconvenient. If you've ever worked gave you a little second-hand satisfaction. Subscribe if you want more revenge stories that are subtle, smart, and deserved. And remember, be kind to people who handle your receipts, because you never know how much power they're holding.
If you like stories where people finally get what they deserve, click the playlist on screen and binge the rest.